It wasn't about fame. We just did what we loved. And others joined in. What started small became a movement for everyone, everywhere. Now there's a new stage, a bigger platform, taking Linux to the next level. Linux One, Linux without limits.
The incredible business challenges of today demand the power of community. We need the best and brightest minds working together to find innovative solutions to our toughest problems. And we need our sharpest developers working in open and collaborative communities to build software and applications that will get us there. That's where Linux comes in. The open source operating system has gone from being an obscure outlier in the tech community to an essential part of so many organizations and business models. Today, Linux is everywhere, powering everything from massive corporate enterprise systems to the millions of objects that make up the Internet of Things. And the role of Linux will continue to grow as mobile applications play a bigger and bigger part of our daily life and more data moves to the cloud. Now we're going to spend some time hearing from some of the most creative innovators in the Linux community. We'll see how Linux and the infrastructure that it runs on is used to solve today's trickiest problems, as well as show how it's an essential part of tomorrow's strategic wins.
If you think Linux is the 80s synth pop of operating systems, catchy but not really that important, think again. Linux is actually bigger than Elvis, the Beatles, and rock and roll itself. It's the go-to platform for niche and basement app developers, as well as Fortune 100 companies. Public cloud service providers use it. It runs virtually all supercomputers that are out there cracking genomes, crushing cancer, and unlocking the secrets of the universe. It's fueling big ideas and progress, making the Internet of Things, self-driving cars, and cognitive computing possible. Only Linux offers you the spectrum of possibilities to run on small devices like the Raspberry Pi and huge enterprise systems. Linux isn't just bigger than rock and roll. It's bigger than pizza and beer, and maybe even this year's biggest space-themed blockbuster.
I'm with Mike Worcester from the Linux Foundation. Welcome, Mike.
Thanks, Jim.
Mike, tell me, what is Linux?
So Linux is the world's largest and most successful operating system on the planet. It is literally powering all of IT infrastructure. It's spanning everything from the world's top supercomputers down to trading platforms, to cars, to mobile phones, to set-top boxes, to TVs. It is fundamental to society. Linux and open source are like the coal and steel of the 21st century. It's just a fundamental building block.
How big is it? What are we talking about?
Linux is powering the world. So just a few stats to share with you. So, Linux mobile phones in the form of Android are activated daily at the rate of 1.5 million units. We have over 8 out of 10 stock trades done every day are traded on the Linux platform. We have 700,000 TVs sold daily are all based on Linux. So Jim, Linux and open source, it just permeates all of our lives in every way.
Linux is everywhere, all over. How is it facilitating innovation?
The rate of innovation has accelerated dramatically in the last 20 years. And Linux and open source are on the right side of history. They've helped make that rate of innovation quicken. And what's exciting now is to see, what other markets have not yet benefited from the shared R&D of collaborative development. What other markets could decide to innovate higher up in the stack and to bring innovation to the consumer in ways that before were not imaginable because they're now leveraging Linux and open source. That's what's exciting for us here at the Linux Foundation, is to work with the community developers, the Rembrandts and Picassos of our day, and the corporations that are strong stewards of open source that want to also leverage it for business strategy, and to be that neutral home to help them to accelerate innovation and to accelerate commercial adoption.
I like that, working with the Rembrandts and Picassos of our day. Coders as artists. It's a good metaphor.
Yeah, we are in a modern day renaissance. This is a huge and exciting time for technology, for technologists, and for consumers.
Thank you, Mike. Mike gave us a terrific view of the Linux landscape, and now we're going to drill down a little further with VP of Open at IBM, Angel Diaz, who's going to show us how open is a key component of innovation.
We are living in an IT-fueled business renaissance. What an amazing time to be a technologist, to be a business person trying to help your clients. Frankly, a human being. We have access to so much technology to do so much good. Let's take a moment, let's step back, and let's think about the history. How did this all get started? Frankly, this renaissance that we're living in has been fueled by technology. As technologists, we have a huge responsibility. And with great power comes what? Great responsibility. Now, back in the 90s, the web, the birth of e-business, we, IBM, and all of the industry got together and said, you know what, we need to create an open web. In fact, e-business, the connection of a transaction system with a web browser or a mobile device, is the beginnings of hybrid computing that we know today. That's what it is. And it all was fueled around open technologies and open standards. Things like HTML, HTTP, Apache, and my favorite, Linux. Linux, the engine that fuels all of this. Now, let's fast forward a little bit to where we are today. Cloud, mobile, data analytics, touching everything with the Internet of Things, and cognitive. These are the new building blocks, the new shoulders in which amazing technologies will be built on. Well, guess what? Behind each of those, whether it's cloud, mobile, data, analytics, is open source and open standards. And we at IBM and all of our partners are behind it. Let me just give you some examples. Cloud, OpenStack, Cloud Foundry, the Open Cloud Platform. We are so proud to be founding members of those communities and driving those forward, all built on containers and microservices. Look at what we're doing around data analytics with Spark and Hadoop. All of these are fundamental technologies, but they're all done in open source. And fueling all of it is Linux. And what we've got going on with Linux One to make it easy for all of us technologists to leverage these skills that we already have, but not worry about the scale and not worry about all of these other things you need to do to bring things into production. That's what I'm real proud of, and that's what I'm excited about. Catherine's going to come next and give us the business imperatives that's really driving the evolution of this renaissance. Thanks.
Unplanned expansion and the slack use of resources hasn't just gutted cities for the past few decades. It's seeped into the mindset of data centers, making them inefficient, wasteful, and insecure. Every year, millions of underutilized servers waste billions of kilowatt hours and billions of dollars. In the US alone, they use enough electricity to power all of the households in New York City for 2 years. And organizations spend 70% of IT budgets just managing and maintaining the unutilized sprawl, siphoning resources away from projects and ideas that could really make a difference to your organization. In the same way that cities are fighting back with vibrant buildings that mix residential, office, and retail space, data centers can also escape the suburban sprawl by moving to incredibly efficient enterprise-grade servers. Servers that can be split into thousands of virtual machines and containers so they use 100% of their resources, reducing energy consumption and cutting management costs while providing non-stop protection and security. Say no to waste. It's time to say goodbye to the era of doing less with more.
We've talked about how Linux has really taken a foothold in enterprise businesses, providing flexibility and portability. We've also just discussed with Angel the importance of the overall open source community to speed innovation and IBM's leadership in cognitive and hybrid cloud. Let's talk about the challenges businesses are facing today that create a new frontier for cloud infrastructure. Companies that thrive in today's fast-moving climate will be the ones that are able to respond to challenges with both and, not either or. They need to reduce costs and increase productivity. They need to enhance security and provide personalized experiences. They need to respond with agility and at the very same time ensure reliability. Business leaders don't have the luxury to tolerate a serial approach to addressing these challenges. The environment demands innovation that happens quickly and that scales efficiently. And IT leaders need to ensure that they preserve data privacy, security, and reliability at the very same time. Because of the challenges our clients and the broader industry are facing, they've asked us to help them with solutions that respond to the changing business dynamics of digital business. And we knew that we had to deliver a solution that gave them the openness and the agility that they were looking for, while also giving them the speed, scale, security, and availability that they require. Linux One leverages an architecture with a set of unmatched attributes, technologies, design practices, and capabilities that allow customers to drive unique value. This is enterprise computing and open source coming together to create new capabilities for driving innovation. Linux One is built for speed. It has the world's fastest commercial microprocessor running at 5 gigahertz. It has large memory pools and 4 layers of cache. Let's discuss scale. Linux One has huge capacity that supports thousands of virtual servers and millions of Docker containers in a single footprint, delivering a level of scale that would require many, many physical servers in a distributed environment. As we mentioned, a top priority for our customers has become security and data privacy. Independently certified the highest security in the industry, Linux One provides isolation at every level. Linux One features security capabilities built in to all elements of the system. Availability. Linux One is designed for business-critical applications where failure is simply not an option. Our platform is designed to provide 100% uptime for decades. Simply put, Linux One sets a new standard for speed, scale, security, and availability for the open community. But just as important is that it achieves that performance in a way that reduces complexity for the customer. And we're introducing a new Linux One Rockhopper offering with flexible consumption models, making Linux One hybrid cloud implementations available to businesses of all sizes. Now you can leverage the skills that you have while getting the scale that you need. The strength of Linux One is really made possible through the broad ecosystem. Of course, Linux One supports the tools, apps, middleware, and APIs you know and love, like Mongo, Node.js, Docker, and Spark. And these technologies behave differently on our platform in a way that is uniquely powerful. The power of the ecosystem to work together and provide the community what they need continues to grow. We're partnering with distros SUSE, Red Hat, and Canonical to collaborate for hybrid cloud leveraging OpenStack. Let's hear a bit from SUSE about how they are innovating with Linux One.
I'm with Michael Miller, President of Strategy, Alliances, and Marketing for SUSE. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks. Pleasure
Thanks
to be
for
here.
being here today. Let's start off with a question about SUSE. Tell me a little bit about it. How does it fit into the Linux ecosystem?
Sure, happy to. So SUSE has been in the Linux business for now over 23 years. Mm-hmm. We started out with a focus from the very beginning on the enterprise. Mm-hmm. So when enterprises are looking to run, their most mission critical, their most demanding workloads, mm-hmm. SUSE is the ideal Linux solution.
I want to talk about Linux in a lot of different ways, but let's start with maybe the traditional way, which is the enterprise. What is the advantage of using Linux in an enterprise right now?
From a SUSE point of view, one of the things I love about Linux One is the ability for me to bring SUSE technology into more and more enterprises. Mm-hmm. Those enterprises where things like a combination of private, public, hybrid cloud solutions matter, mm-hmm. where they want to be able to move their workloads throughout that spectrum, where the most data-intensive, compute-intensive, mission-critical applications matter. The Linux One platform is the perfect place for SUSE to provide their technologies to those customers.
What do you bring to the table right now?
So we bring both, again, on an engineering level and a business level, some really important things. And on the engineering level, it's really important to provide that consistent support for all the different platforms. So there's some technology elements there that are really important to fully embracing the platform. And then on the business level is the elastic pricing model.
Yeah.
So the ability to have that consumption-based pricing model, not just for the Linux One hardware and Linux One software, but also for the SUSE Linux distribution. And if you put all that together, that's something that IBM and SUSE have been calling GreenStack.
GreenStack. Okay.
So GreenStack is that concept of taking the Linux One platform with all those great attributes, and then on top of that are, from SUSE, the operating system, the virtualization support, the flexible pricing model, and the OpenStack distribution combined creates what we call GreenStack.
Yeah. Sounds like some interesting days ahead for Linux. Okay, now we're going to move to the front lines of business. And to do that, we have Graham Mallon, Richard Lawrence from the Met Office in the United Kingdom. And they're here to talk about the work they've done with Linux One. Give me a little sense about what the Met Office does.
Okay, Jim. So the Met Office is part of the UK government. It's part of the Department of Business Innovation and Skills. And we're charged with three basic things. The first one is the protection of life, property, and the national environment. And the second one is trying to create growth and prosperity for UK PLC. And the third one is just improving everyone's well-being.
Yeah. The weather forecast, though, that particular part of the work is critically important in the day-to-day world of many people. And in some ways, you're in the business of saving people's lives. How does Linux One affect what you do? How does it help?
Okay, so doing weather forecasts is a very difficult thing to do, but that's only part of the story. We typically run weather forecasts on high-performance computing. That's one part. The second part is to get those forecasts out to the people who really need to get them, and that might be the general public, it might be the military, it might be the emergency services. And Linux One plays a pivotal role in doing that for the UK.
Confidence is a pretty important thing when you're making weather forecasts, I would imagine.
Yeah, the weather is critical to not only to people's businesses, but it can affect their lives. It also has a massive impact on the UK economy as well. And if we can give our warnings just that little bit earlier, then that reduces that cost to the whole of the UK.
Let's do a little compare and contrast. Your service now with what it was 3 years ago. Where was it, and how far has it come since then?
Many of the services 3 years ago were running on x86 boxes, machines. Since then, we've taken some key critical parts of that and put it on Linux One, and that's allowed us to use the fundamental elements of Linux One to give us guaranteed performance, repeatability, scalability, and more trust that when that weather warning needs to go out, it'll really get there. It's the ability to know when I go to sleep at night, Linux One's going to be there, it's going to work, get up in the morning, and I know everything's going to be fine. We can absolutely rely on that platform. If you like, we can bet the business on Linux One. And that makes me, a happy man.
Yeah. Why should a customer care that Met Office is running Linux One? What difference does it make in their life?
The difference it makes to our customers can be summed up through some of the variety we have in our customers. We have national governments that depend on getting our view of the weather so that they can compare and contrast, through to the lady who rings us up every week from Norwich to find out which is the best day to hang up her washing to find out when it will dry. So that great breadth of customers gives us unique demands through from the high demands from the business end customers to the people who just want to know when it's going to rain.
The weather touches everybody, yeah, and we have to be available 7x24, 365 days a year.
Graham, Richard, thank you very much. Now we're going to see a technology showcase from IBM fellow Don Dellenberger.
This is a demo of the Linux One server using deep analytics and massive scalability to help millions of stranded travelers. So we've all been in this situation. The snow is falling, we're looking out of the terminal, and is my flight going to get canceled? Linux One uses unstructured data such as weather data and structured data such as flight data, and we forecast whether your flights are going to get delayed or canceled. Once we have this information, what's going to be my options? Linux One in this demo uses data from personal preferences. It also uses where do you want to go, what time do you want to get there, and we optimize from cost, availability, and the different options. This is a map of the US, and here are the major airports. The weather is really nasty now. So red means that the flights are canceled, yellow means the flights are delayed, and green means that the flights are taking off. And in 2014, there were 850 million passengers. That's about 2.3 million passengers per day. We had the worst snowstorm ever in January in 2014. 70% of the flights were canceled. That's 1.7 million people affected. All those people are using their mobile devices or working with agents, and they're causing 4.6 billion web events to occur to look for different options. Linux One could handle that. Linux One scales up to 30 billion events. So let's do this. Let's make this personal. So I'm in San Francisco. I want to get to Boston. I type this in, and wow, Boston, all the flights are canceled. JFK, 99% of the flights are canceled. Let me ask Linux One, what should I do? And here are my options. Wow, the only thing that's open on the East Coast is Dulles. And this is what Spark Analytics says. You know, I should fly to Dulles and drive to Boston. But you know what? I don't like driving. I don't like this option. So I'm going to get off the paper chase, and I'm going to stay in San Francisco. Now all the hotels are filling up. What can I do now? So I asked Linux One, what hotels can I get to? And here, Linux One goes through all the data, all the hotels that are available, and it says, okay, 20 hotels are available, but it only shows 2. Well, that's because only 8 of those hotels are vacant. But again, it only shows 2. And it shows that because it looks at my personal preferences based on my prior history of what I bought. And it knows that I like hotels with a view. It knows I like hotels that have indoor swimming pools. And look, I'll click on one of these, the Marriott. It also picked it because it's in walking distance of my favorite restaurants, because it went through social media to see what I tweeted about. And it also saw my favorite bars. But you know, I don't want to be a dull person. I don't want to just keep on going to the same restaurants and bars. So it recommends what are similar restaurants, new ones that I would like. It also knows that I like museums. And here, it just recommended that I spend the day going into the art museum. I'm going to go do that. So what did we just see? We saw Linux One ingesting massive amounts of data, from megabytes to terabytes, unstructured data, weather data, flight data, forecasting, what's going to land, what's going to get delayed, using my preferences to give me the best options. Spark Analytics is scaling. And so let's look at the performance of Linux One here. 99% CPU utilization. It didn't slow Linux One down. Here, you know, we see the requests are going from 80,000 to 138,000 requests per second. Linux One Server, it's using deep analytics and massive scaling. It's going to help millions of travelers not get stranded. So how did it do that? We rely heavily on Docker containers. And here is my good friend, colleague, Utz Bakker, and he is IBM's Docker expert. And he's going to tell us about Docker container density.
Thanks, Donna. So in the lab, we wanted to see how far we can get and stretch the limits. And we were able to run over 1 million containers on a single Linux One footprint, so very, very far.
Wow.
Now, that's not very realistic. So to have some more realistic scenario, we used 4,000 Apache Solr containers. Solr is a search engine used by many websites. We were able to hold throughput and response time steady. We're also running 10,000 containers in a realistic mix of heavily loaded containers and smaller containers. But in general, when talking about performance in Docker, it always depends on platform attributes. So when running under constrained conditions, we were able to see that our throughput remains steady at very high loads, higher than on other platforms. So Linux One can really play out its strengths.
And that's why Linux One is able to help millions of travelers stranded. Scalability, deep analytics, all in one server.
I could really have used that app last time I was traveling. Now we're going to meet one of the Linux One ecosystem partners who's providing new levels of freedom, new levels of choice to developers. Welcome, Mark Shuttleworth, founder of Canonical.
Hello, Jim.
Mark, tell us a little bit about Ubuntu.
Ubuntu is the world's favorite platform for cloud-oriented development across enterprises, across startups, across public cloud and private cloud. Ubuntu is the platform of choice for people building new infrastructure in a cloud environment. And Canonical is the company behind Ubuntu.
You know, we're seeing explosive growth in open source and Linux. How is Ubuntu part of that?
Ubuntu is the platform of choice for cloud-oriented Linux developers. If you look at the number of instances running on major public clouds, for example, about 70% of them across all of the major public clouds, Amazon, Azure, Google, and others, are Ubuntu images. On SoftLayer, we see a very strong preponderance of Ubuntu. Docker, the Docker community, which is a very fast-moving, DevOps-centric world, 70+% of the images on the Docker hubs are Ubuntu-based. And in OpenStack, which is the private cloud open source technology of choice for most, 70% of the OpenStack deployments in production today are also on Ubuntu. So across all of these fields, when we look at ways of measuring what cloud-centric developers are doing, Ubuntu comes up as the substantial majority platform of choice.
Tell us about the new capabilities in 1604. What is the Canonical community really looking forward to in this release?
The real highlight of our upcoming 1604 release is the container story. Containers are transforming the way developers think about application development and application delivery, both for cloud computing and on-prem. And in 1604, containers become a first-class citizen. So you can create literally thousands of containers in a virtual machine on the cloud or on Linux One, the world's fastest and most capable computing platform. So containers are the highlight of 1604. They are a new primitive which we expect people to make extraordinary use of.
Let's talk about the future. Where's Ubuntu heading? What are we going to see next?
This is such an exciting time in enterprise IT. We've already seen the sweeping changes brought about by the shift in thinking towards cloud computing. But at the same time, we're now seeing a whole new class of computing emerge with IoT and distributed smart devices. So for us to be working right at the heart of the infrastructure, enterprise infrastructure with Linux One, but also right at the edge of possibility with IoT and smart devices, and bringing those two together so that a developer can sit down and build an application, build both halves of the application, the edge that's going to run on IoT, and the heart, the brain that's going to run in Linux One and on the cloud. Add to that the possibilities of cognitive computing, the sweeping breakthroughs of cognitive computing. And it couldn't be a more exciting time to rethink the way enterprises attack IT and attack their business models.
Thank you, Mark. Some really great stuff happening between Ubuntu and Linux One.
To make Linux One the world's strongest, most secure Linux server, it takes two things: thousands of big-brained engineers to build it, and a team of relentless engineers to attack it. They blast it with massive amounts of randomized workloads. They cook it and freeze it over and over for days. They put it through the world's worst earthquakes. They try to hack it. They rip out parts. They put in damaged parts. It's like a server slasher movie. But no matter what, Linux One refuses to be beaten. So by the time it gets to you, it's the most battle-tested, reliable Linux server on the planet.
So Catherine, over the last half hour, we've heard so many interesting stories about businesses all over the world that are still facing incredible business challenges.
They are, and we're seeing that they are leveraging the innovation in the open community to address many of those challenges. Linux is at the forefront of that open innovation, and with Linux One, we deliver enterprise-grade capabilities to the open community.
Right, and the open community is such a huge part of making those advances happen.
That's right. We have a tremendous community and terrific partners that are helping us to build out an ecosystem in support of Linux One. And we're thrilled to also announce the new Linux One Community Cloud that makes available Linux One capabilities for free, so anyone can try it out and see the benefit and capabilities of this technology.
Well, it'll be interesting to see where business and the open community take advantage of Linux One. Thank you.
Thank you.